So what made you decide to run for the deal?
Oh well, I feel so good today. We just touched ground on an international runway. Jet propelled back home from overseas to the USA. New York, Los Angeles, oh how I yearn for you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark DiCarlo. Tonight, my guest is Miss Lillian Riojas. She's running for City Council at large. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mark, for having me
And,
today.
and you were talking a little bit before this, as we were talking there, you were saying about why you decided to run, and you said you're from Corpus Christi, right?
I am from Corpus Christi. Well, I was born in Houston, but my family we moved to Corpus Christi. I went to Smith Elementary, went to Shannon Junior High. It's not there anymore, obviously. Lowe's is there now. And I went to King High School. Graduated from King High School, left, went to Baylor University, and did something that probably not a lot of young people do, is come back to Corpus Christi. So I came back to Corpus Christi in 1995, and I've been here ever since, Mark. So nearly 2 decades later, I'm still in Corpus Christi. I've stayed here, I've built a life here, and I've been committed to this community while I've been here for the last, like I said, nearly 20 years.
What'd you major in at Baylor University?
I majored in psychology.
Oh, I see. Well, that's an interesting major.
It was an interesting, very interesting major. It gave me such a strong foundation, and was looking at going into a doctorate program. But as life would have it, things unfolded. I was raised by a single parent mom, and
She was widowed, right?
she was
Your mother
widowed,
very
exactly.
young, yes.
Our father suddenly died, and she was raising. I have a young sister, and so she was raising our young sister. And basically, my mother asked me to come back home after I graduated from college, and so family is very important to me. And so I said, yes, I'll come back home. And so I was fortunate, though, when I did come back home, to start a career at the Port of Corpus Christi, and did business development, marketing, served as their spokesperson. And more than anything, one of the things I took away from the Port of Corpus Christi was how integral the port and port industries are to the economy here in Corpus Christi. So I worked there for a number of years, and then went over into the private side, and have been very, very fortunate to build what I think a successful career working for industry right here in Corpus Christi. And what that's really done for me, though, is give me insight into business and what really drives the local economy here in Corpus Christi, Mark.
You work for Valero, right?
I do. I work for Valero.
What do you do for Valero? Is a refining company,
That's right. Valero is one of North America's largest refinery companies, and I serve as their senior manager of public affairs. So I've been there since 2008.
So when I drive into 37, do I see Valero on the left side, the refinery on the left side of the road?
That's right. Valero has 2 refineries here in Corpus Christi. This is the first and longest owned refinery system for Valero.
Do you actually work at that refinery, or do you have an office somewhere else?
We have an office and administration building, and so that's actually sits between our 2 refineries, and so that's where I'm housed out of.
So were you part? They had through the years these various lawsuits and barriers and all this. Did you have anything to do with any of those, wherein people were saying, our air quality wasn't as high, and then there was some sort of green space they wanted? Did you have much to do with any of that?
Well, I've been with a lot of some of the things you're talking about took place years ago. I've only been with Valero for since 2008, but I'm proud to work for a company that puts safety first, that acts in a way that is respectful to the environment. They believe our employees are our number one asset. They want to help make the community a better place to live and to work. We have about 1,000 employees that work for Valero. About 800 employees, and then probably about another 300 to 500 contractors. So really, Valero's been here for more than 30 years, and has just really provided a lot of families with a wonderful quality of life through jobs, and being able to, in turn, those people that work at Valero send their kids on to college and so forth. And so I think that, I'm proud to work for a company that's given back in so many ways to the community.
How many employees does Valero have here? Do you know?
We have about 800 employees,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have a number of contractors that work for our company.
Oh, I see, like independent contractors.
Independent
you're referring
contractors
to.
who have a specialty skill that is used in the refinery. And so, working there, like I said, working for industry really has given me some insight and a good foundation of what drives the local economy. And so beyond working for the refinery, though, I have been really involved in the community and have worked on issues that I think are of really importance to people. Literacy. I've served on the Corpus Christi Literacy Council.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I spent my morning today doing volunteering with Corpus Christi Independent School District and their KEYS, Keeping Every Youth in School program. So
So what did you do this morning at this Keeping Every Youth in School organization? Did you go speak to students? Did you go? What did you actually do?
That's a good question, Mark. What exactly is that volunteer program? Basically, what it is, it's an outreach program to those students who may be enrolled in school but have not shown up. So it's a chance to go visit those students and say, what's going on?
So you actually physically went? Excuse me for interrupting you. I'm sorry. Did you actually go physically to their house and say, "Look, I'm so and so. Why aren't you in school, kid?"
We did. Well, I didn't say why aren't you in
I
school,
might have
kid,
said
but
that.
basically we did. We were given a list. I went to Miller High School, and they break you up into teams, and I was fortunate. I went on a team with the Chief of Police, Floyd Simpson, along with the Assistant Chief, Mark Schauer, and Mike Markle. And so we did. We actually were given a list. We went to those people's homes, knocked on doors, and talked to people and said, you know what, we care about your student, we care about your son or daughter or grandson, granddaughter, and we're just here because we realize that they haven't been at school, and we want to, one, find out what's going on. Is there anything that the school district can do to help them get back into school? We've got counselors. They're able to go today and register. So it's really was just a mechanism to reach out to those students who have not been showing up and try to encourage them to get back into school and finish school, graduate, because really at the end of the day, it's about educating and empowering kiddos and students so that they can have more opportunities.
How many students did you visit today?
We reached out to 5 homes. They break you up into teams, and they give you a slate of houses to go to. So
I shouldn't laugh. Saturday morning, you're getting in and out of this hot car, like knocking on people's doors and saying, like, why isn't this kid in school, right?
Well, it was, like I said, it's just a way to reach out and show
Did it work? I mean, did anybody say anything did you have like some disappointment wherein somebody just answered the phone drunk, and did you have someone maybe who responded successfully? What was your personal anecdotal experience this morning?
We visited some homes, and we were able to talk to a few people. Unfortunately, we didn't talk to any students, but we talked to parents and grandparents. Okay. And I think one of my takeaways was that there was an appreciation from the parents and the grandparents that somebody would spend their Saturday morning going to their home and just basically saying, we care enough to reach out and just check on your son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson, and just encourage them to get back into school. And so, and you could tell that they too have been encouraging their student to go to school. This is the right thing to do. But for whatever reason, maybe obstacles that they feel in their student's life, that they're not there. And this was just a way to, again, demonstrate that somebody cares about you. Somebody really wants you to get back into school.
Were these homes mostly homes, or were they homes and apartments, or?
We went to homes this morning.
Okay. And would this reflect like a lower socioeconomic demographic group, or did they look like they're poorer homes?
Well, it was, this program was throughout district-wide, and I selected Miller High School. So I went to Miller High School, and the area that we went to was in and around Miller High School. But this was a program that was district-wide, where obviously this issue, I don't think it's just isolated to one particular school. But basically, like I said, it's just an opportunity to reach out to people and say, people care about you and are curious and want you to know, curious what's going on in your life. They care about what's going on in your life, and they want you to get back into school.
Is this the first time that that you went to this KEYS program, Keeping Every Youth in School program?
This was the first time I participated in it, but it's not the first time that I've
And
done.
what's your impression? Your impression is it's a good program, it's not a good program?
I think it's a
gonna work?
great program. Honestly, I really do. I think because I can't say this enough, but to me, it's a demonstration of caring. And I think a lot of people need to know that you're cared about. People took notice that you haven't been in school. And because you haven't been in school, we want to get you into school. We want to get you into school. We want to get you the tools. We want to get you the resources you need to help you achieve success. And success could be getting your high school diploma.
And this program you're involved in, who's running this program? Is it
It
a
was
city?
with the school district and in partnership with the city and United Way and some others agencies here in the Corpus Christi. But I just use that as one example of the ways that I've been involved in the community and served on numerous boards. I've served on boards that address health, community health, from the American Diabetes Association to the Coastal Bend Diabetes Initiative, have served on committees that are addressing the arts and culture with the Art Museum of South Texas. One board that I'm currently serving on right now that is addressing something that I think is really, really important for our community is jobs. And I serve on the Workforce Solutions of the Coastal Bend and actually was appointed by the mayor to that board. It's a board that represents 12 counties. And really what their whole focus is helping to get people skill sets and getting people back to work.
So you think that a lot of people aren't working because they don't have skills? Is that the implication?
I think that that's one. I think that we offer that. We offer education. We offer training. We offer services that will help somebody come in. If potentially they're unemployed, they can come in, sit down. We can work with them on resume building, soft skills training, trying to help them find what maybe potential jobs are out there, actually going through them with interviewing techniques. So really it's just a way to not just help the person who's looking for a job, and also actually work with the employers as well to do some matching. And so I think that there's a lot of positive things going on. Texas is real fortunate right now to have a lower unemployment rate, in particular here in the Coastal Bend, and I think a lot of it is attributed to what's going on in the Eagle Ford Shale, the economic opportunities that are driving some job growth right now here here in the community. And so I think it's a positive thing.
And do you hear from a lot of employers that the work ethic in this area is not good?
I wouldn't say not good. I think that there was a need in the business community that people have soft skills. And actually that's where Workforce Solutions stepped up and created a soft skills training program called Career Ready. And it's basically a 4-day program where somebody who is maybe currently employed or seeking employment can go through this program and get those soft skills training. And actually they get some credits from Del Mar College, so it's an accredited program.
I don't know what soft skills are.
Soft skills, basically knowing resume building, knowing how to, when you meet somebody, just those soft skills, showing up on time, work ethic, like you're saying, how to dress, how to present yourself, how to stand up in front of a group, things like that I think that people, while they may have, maybe the actual computer skills background, but it's just those other soft skills about customer service, how to greet somebody, how to address somebody, how to shake somebody's hand, just those things that maybe you and I, Mark, we take for granted, but maybe for a lot of people.
Maybe you take for granted. I don't know about myself.
So that's just those I just used are
I
some
could
of the.
use some polishing sometimes in some of the social.
Well, we've got
maybe,
a training program at Workforce Solutions of the Coastal Bend.
You're our own background. Maybe I'll join out. What do you think? Is it free? Is it free for me? I want to go over there and I want to, learn the appropriate thing to say and when to
You
say
can go over there and sign up. Yeah, they have classes on a regular basis, and
Okay.
so it's a great opportunity. But I use that to say that I've worked and served on different community boards that I think are addressing issues of local importance, and this one is particular about jobs. And so through all that experience, Mark, I've been here in the community, and have been committed to this community. And so obviously I decided to take that commitment to a whole nother level and run for city council. And it's a huge endeavor, but I really think Corpus Christi's worth it.
It's a huge endeavor to what?
To run for city council.
Why is it a huge endeavor?
Well, it's a huge endeavor in that, serving the community in that way, because I really believe that's what it is. You're a public servant. And I believe that, when you, and especially at large, I'm representing everybody in the city. And there's lots of issues and lots of complex issues that are facing our community right now.
What are the issues?
Well, for me, some of the big issues are this. We've got to develop a workable plan to maintain and improve our infrastructure. I know lots of conversations going on right now in the community about streets and roads, and we need to come up with a plan that's fair and equitable. I think another big issue right now in this community, and it will be in the next legislative session that's coming up in January, is water. And so our community has got to make sure that we develop a long-term water supply strategy, not just for business, but for residents as well. I mean, people, you woke up this morning and you expected when you turned on your shower that water comes out. That's something that every resident expects. And so as a community, I think it's so important that we develop a long-term water supply strategy and that we make sure that we protect our water rights and water interests going into the next session.
Well, let's talk about but I think many people would say they drive on the roads and we have bad roads or bad I guess that is part of the infrastructure. But that's identifying the problem. But do you have any proposal for how to solve any of the infrastructure problems, or have you considered that?
Well, I mean, I think it's unfortunate, and everybody would probably agree of how we got here on the street issue. I mean, basically, if we're going to have critical infrastructure like roads, like wastewater, those type of things, we're going to have a plan to maintain those things. And I think that's where it has to start, to make sure that when we build something, whether it's a park, whether it's streets and roads, whether it's a building, that we really have a viable plan to make sure that it's being maintained, not just build it, leave it, and then come back to it 20 years or so.
Some of us who have been involved in politics for many years have thought that the reason it's done like that is many of the local construction companies benefit from big building projects, but they don't benefit necessarily from keeping up the old city hall that was torn down or whatever, the old public library. So there's an emphasis in the city oftentimes for big capital projects that special interest groups make money off of. And that's where we arrived at the problem. I don't know if you're aware of that, or that's a concern of some of us.
Well, I can appreciate that concern. I think for me going forward, it's very important to make sure that as a partner on the council that we have a plan, because I think that's probably one of the biggest words that we need to avail ourselves more of with the city is plan, P-L-A-N. We need to make sure that we create, and that's why I use those words, workable plans that are going to maintain and improve the infrastructure we have, because I think maintenance is the key. I work for a company and I work in a business where you build things and you put maintenance into it year after year after year after year. You have to. There's just an expectation. We
have here, since we're talking and try to be a little bit more specific, there's this issue right now about replacement of the Harbor Bridge, and we hear the drums beating in favor of replacement of the bridge, which to many of us who are cynical about the large public works projects that are built without any kind of, as you're stating, maintenance of the old structure, and then they let that dilapidate, and then they use that as an excuse to build a new structure. Are you familiar with the Harbor Bridge or the issues in that regards yet, or have you been brought up to speed on that?
I'm very aware of the issues with the Harbor Bridge, and I recognize that there are lots of people in our community that see that the need to replace it is about the long-term operation and maintenance. And I know the Texas Department of Transportation has been putting in maintenance dollars year after year, and that over time they feel that you are going to have to replace it at some point, and that now may be that time with some funding from the state level and seeing here with the local match. And so if it's truly a long-term operation maintenance issue, if it's a safety issue, it's an economic development issue, I believe that it's a community bridge, and those discussions, decisions, solutions, the funding for it should be all discussed in a community type forum.
I see. So you don't know, you haven't made a decision regarding whether or not you would be in favor of building a new harbor bridge?
I think if that decision is going to come for council, there's many more questions that I would want to vet with it. I think it's something, like I said, that the community as a whole needs to decide if that is the direction that we want to go into, is to building a new harbor bridge, or could you continue to maintain it, and what's the shelf life of that? I mean, you see bridges that are hundreds of years old and they're just equally maintained year after year after year after year.
Were you a member of the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation or anything? I see here that listed in jobs. This is job of agencies like Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development.
Well, through my employers, obviously all the employer, the Port, Valero, Lyondell, they have always been have strong, close working relationships with the Regional Economic Development Corporation. And so that's really been through my affiliation. Obviously, the Port is a tremendous economic development tool here in the community. And so I was really fortunate to work on a number of business development projects when I worked at the Port to try to stimulate more growth and development in the community. So,
what did you do at the Port?
Well, I was their marketing manager, and so I worked on, one of the projects I worked on was actually a tourism project, and it was an effort to attract cruise ships to Corpus Christi. And while we don't have cruise ships here in Corpus Christi, one of the things that we did was at least start establishing the area where, under the harbor bridge, as a potential area for other types of activities, for it to be a catalyst for other growth. Where Waterburger Field is, where Hurricane Alley is now, where Brewster Street, basically kind of a waterfront development or waterfront redevelopment. Basically, the Port took old cargo dock warehouses that weren't being utilized for cargo space anymore and transformed it into what many of your viewers will know as the Ortiz Center. That was created to become a cruise ship terminal. But in the meantime, obviously, there aren't cruise ships here in Corpus Christi, and so that facility is used as a community type center for all different events. And so I think it's been somewhat of a key to opening up growth in and around that port area for more development than just potential cargo.
Why don't we have cruise ships here in Corpus Christi?
Wow, that's a big question. And I know Representative Hunter has an effort afoot right now to, and he actually is going to have a cruise ship committee hearing in a couple of weeks here in our community to talk about how can we as a state, we as a community bring cruise ships here. I think that, and I've been real fortunate to go into cruise ship executive's office. I've, a number of years ago when I was at the Port, met with Carnival, met with Royal Caribbean, met with Princess Cruise Line, Holland, you name the cruise line, I have visited with those executives. And at the time, I think, they had different things that were motivating them as to where they selected to put ships in and out of. And I think a lot of it is, going to be your population base, the amenities, the air service, things like that. And then another big one is itinerary. Where can you go from Corpus Christi? What destinations can you do?
And so Caribbean
I think
Islands, I don't know.
You can. You just have to.
Cuba,
you have to
Caribbean
build an
Islands.
itinerary and what the market can bear on a 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, 7-day, 10-day itinerary. Where can you go?
They leave from Florida. I don't know if any specifics have been discussed. I know nothing about it, but since you brought it up, I was curious. Where can you go? I don't know.
Florida's a huge hub. Obviously,
Yes,
it's the cruise ship capital of
Cuba
the
and
world,
so on.
and Texas has become an emerging cruise market. Really, I mean, it's been successful in the Galveston and the Houston area, and I think that there are some definitely opportunities for Corpus Christi in the future. I think it might have been a matter of timing, and I worked on this project. Wow, I mean, I was at the Port from 1995 to 2004, and so that, over 8 years ago. So a lot's changed.
When you met with these people at Caribbean, et cetera, what did you meet with them to say, well, look, we'd like to start bringing your cruise ship line here into Corpus Christi. Why don't you come in? Or what facilities do we need that we don't have?
I think that's all part of the conversation. Basically, when you go into any kind of new company and talk about here's the opportunity, and I think more than anything, Mark, that was one of the biggest learnings I had was introducing our community to the cruise ship executives, because I think a lot of people weren't aware of Corpus Christi. So hopefully, if anything, through our work, the work that I do when I was at the port, we helped at least raise the awareness about the Port of Corpus Christi and the opportunities that could be there should they decide to relocate a ship and have a ship come and embark and disembark passengers out of Corpus Christi, because that was what I was working on. Let's have Corpus Christi be a place where people can get on the ship and get off the ship, and do pre and post stays to obviously increase the tourism, increase the travel time here in Corpus Christi. And so I think that, you know, one of the takeaways for them was there's a port in Corpus Christi, Texas. And you're right. One of the things is about the amenities. What facilities do you have that could handle a cruise ship? And that's where the idea for the Ortiz Center was born. Is, well, let's create a facility that could potentially handle cruise ships. But if it's not handling cruise ships, what else could it do? And so that's been something that, you know, I enjoyed working on those projects, and those are the things that business background and that knowledge of different sectors of the community, travel and tourism, I understand that piece of it and worked closely with the Convention and Visitors Bureau Board and actually sat on that board for a number of years. So tourism is an area that I understand and want to learn more about. Obviously, industry is another area. So those are two key pillars of our community that drive the local economy when you look at what is Corpus Christi, what are the economic drivers, industry, tourism, military, healthcare. Those are all important sectors, and so I've been fortunate to work in a couple of those.
Would you ever go on that gambling cruise ship that we used to have? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, the Texas Treasure.
Did you ever go on it?
You know, they were obviously a client of the port. Because the port, they came and used port facilities, and they were actually really successful. I think they had some internal issues that they.
Really, you got some gossip for us? What happened?
No, I don't. That's 8
teasing.
years ago. I don't remember, but
teasing.
they had good numbers. Mm-hmm. Obviously, people have an interest in gaming. So.
What do you think about gaming for the Corpus Christi? Gambling, I call it gambling, but whatever the.
Seems like it's going to be a topic of discussion in the upcoming legislative session.
Well, do you have an opinion?
Lots of people do it. Lots of people are, going to other communities, Louisiana, New Mexico, Las Vegas, and taking part of it. Sounds like, it could be an opportunity for Texas, and so I'm sure there'll be a lot more discussion in Austin come January.
Well, we're talking right now. Let's talk about like gambling. The negative connotation. Some people say that you get addicted. Some people say that it brings up social problems, perhaps prostitution and crime. And then the other side of it, of course, is that people who are gamble, they go to, as you say, we lose a lot of revenue to Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
we lose revenue to Las Vegas, etc. But I mean, have you formulated an opinion? Is legalized gambling a good thing?
It provides people something to do, and the cruise ship thing. That's something that's an amenity. It's an attraction for the community. That's probably what gaming would be too. I think that, one of the things that I think it's important, whether it's gaming or casinos or other attractions, I think there's a great opportunity here for us to build upon the assets and attractions that we already have to enhance the quality of life. When I was driving down to your office, obviously I went down Ocean Drive and looking at Cole Park. I don't know if you've noticed Cole Park lately, but it's really...
They've improved it somewhat?
They've improved it. I think quite dramatically, with just some of the new structures they put out there, the new signage. It's actually being watered, and which makes it look really nice. And so those are the kinds of things that I think are really important that we build upon and give people something to do. Cruise ships, gaming, gambling, whatever you call it, give people something to do. But I think there's a lot of good pillars here. There's a lot of good things already in our community that give people something to do. Have you been down to Art Walk on the first Fridays?
No, I keep missing it. I haven't been down there.
You need to go. That's a great example of just taking our downtown area and building upon it. It's already existing.
Well, and that's related. You'd mentioned a lot about large industry, and you'd mentioned about the port, etc. But there really hasn't been much of an emphasis on either, I don't think, small business by city council, which I think are probably, I don't know statistically here, but I know nationwide provide most of the jobs, small businessmen and women. And the arts are often an attraction. What attracts people to Austin? There's a music and an art sector that
Right.
we haven't been on the forefront of, have we?
Not yet. I mean, I think that, to me, arts and culture, that's the personality of the community. So with Austin, you're right. They have a great music scene, and people know them as a great live music destination. And I think that we have, with the Art Museum here, and some of the Garcia Arts Education Center, the Art Center, and just some of the other things, we have some good things as well. I think that's part of the personality of our community. I think it's important to support the arts. I've done that personally, and served on numerous boards to help that enrich a community and continue to give it personality, flavor.
Did you follow the debacle or problem regarding the three ships, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, and the fact that, I think that was an interesting issue because in a way it's kind of related to the arts. I mean, the boats are almost artistic and history and culture, and that seemed to be a disaster.
I'm not as familiar with that.
Okay.
I'm really not with what happened.
What happened there? Yeah,
I don't know all the background, but you're right. I mean, they potentially could have been a great draw for the community and something for the community and for outside visitors.
It seems like I have said, for whatever my opinion is worth, and that might be indicated in that situation, that Corpus Christi is a victim of very, very poor management. Now, is that true? I don't know. I do know since I came here, I believe it was in December of December of '85? Approximately, December of '85, that I have seen Corpus Christi kind of be left in the dirt by the other major cities in Texas, including Austin, San Antonio, etc.
In what area do you think they've been left in the dirt?
I think if you look in terms of development, I think if you look just at physical development, growth, in particular, Corpus Christi obviously had. Now I don't know if I left maybe a major urban city of Houston because it was too extreme in terms of growth and traffic and crime. But I don't think we've kept up with the other major cities in terms of growth at all.
I think some positive things are happening. I would agree with you. I mean, we've got some huge opportunities to keep growing our community. We may not have had the significant double-digit growth numbers like the Austins and the Houstons that you're talking about.
Even the Valley.
Right, even the Valley. Exactly. We haven't had that yet. But in my mind, I think positive things are happening. I think the Eagle Ford Shell is having a...
That was a lucky break.
It was a lucky break, but you know what? Sometimes it's better to be lucky, right? Sometimes it's better to be lucky. And I think that's been positive.
If we follow up on it, right?
I think it's been really positive, like I said earlier, helping to drive, unemployment numbers and to the
blue-collar guy is getting a lot of jobs out of it,
to increase employment. Occupancy in hotels is up, sales tax revenue is up, so
right.
That's a good thing. So that's one thing that I think is going to augment the growth here. There are good things happening in and around the region. You've got companies that are looking at Corpus Christi for potentially. You've got and I think Corpus Christi is not just thinking Corpus Christi, you're thinking regional. You've got some great things going on the other side of the bridge that I think will have tremendous spillover and impact here in the community with the pipe company coming in and some of the other projects with Oxy buying the property that the port is selling in the former Naval Station Ingleside. I think on the island, what's going on with Schlitterbahn, that'll be a catalyst to growth. So you have all these things that now are, whether it's job growth creation, tourism attraction and enhancements of people wanting to come to our community. Those are some good things that are positive things. And that's really, and a lot of reasons why, Mark, I wanted to run for council. I think positive things are happening. I'm not naive to think we don't have challenging issues. I know we do. We talked about some of them with infrastructure, water supply, growing our tax base. We've got to grow it. We've got to diversify it, make sure we keep taxes low. public safety, you brought up about crime issues. We need to make sure it's a safe community, because anytime any employers, anytime any business relocates here, that's one thing they want to look at.
I think it is. I think Corpus Christi is a safe community.
It is a safe
that's
community.
A positive thing.
It is safe community.
I do think that for whatever, from my experience in doing this show and through the years, and you talked about education, I do think that Corpus Christi Independent School District has a very bad reputation.
Well, I'm a product of Corpus Christi Independent School District. I went to King High School, went to Shannon Junior High, I went to Smith Elementary.
And I think that's, obviously that's speaks very favorably of the educational system. So you're saying that, as far as you know, that would be an unfair criticism of CCISD to say that it's a poor system, or they're doing a poor job, or doing a poor job of keeping kids in school. Well, that's an unfair criticism?
I think it's not a criticism that I would put on CCISD.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question.
I'm a product of CCISD, and it gave me a good foundation to go to Baylor University, graduate, and then actually, get a job and build a successful career.
I'm not saying, excuse me for interrupting, I'm not saying it is a problem. I hear that comment.
I think there's always room for improvement.
And I think, from what my anecdotal experience is worth, from seeing I think there's a degree of truth in it, myself. I
think there's always room for improvement. And I think that it takes not just CCISD, the teachers, the superintendent, their school board, but I think it takes the community. And today was a great example of it taking the community to step in and work hand in hand with the school district to say, we care about this community. We need our community to be educated. We need there to be a skilled, educated, qualified workforce that can make sure that they're for already existing companies, because they're going to need some labor. I know in my company we're going to have a turnover of people. We need people to come and work for us, and to the new companies that are coming to town, we've got to have that labor, skilled, educated, qualified workforce here in the community.
As a matter of fact, I don't know, I think it was a couple years ago when there was some debate about how the city was spreading out or something, or they were going to Flower Bluff, etc. And one of the major politicians, I don't remember who it was, said, well, they're not fleeing Corpus Christi, they're fleeing CCISD. So, I mean, that's not, so I'm not saying that I necessarily have any statistical basis for what I'm saying might be a problem, but I just thought I would point out that there has been some concern about that.
Well, I grew up in a household where education was valued. It wasn't a question of if you were going to college, it was you are going to college. And I appreciated that, because my family, I was the first in my family to go to school, to go to college. My mother didn't go. My father, he was already dead, but he did not go to college. And so it was such a heavily emphasized value that education is the key to your future, and that for you to be able to take care of yourself, you need to go and get educated, and then work hard and do what you can to give back to the community to help make it a better place to live and work. Those are the core values that my mom, raised us with. She was widowed, but had two daughters, and then we have a young sister, and so she raised us three girls with those values: hard work, getting an education, giving back to the community.
But of course, as a politician, as somebody who sits on a city council, obviously, you're not going to be able to influence people other than maybe through discussion to have these values. You're going to be implementing whatever
policy,
street
Sure.
budgets and school budgets, and how much the police officers are going to be making, and et cetera.
Not school budgets. The school board does that, but you mentioned but policy decisions. But I think also too, and you talk about being a politician. I think it's about being a public servant. I think it's about leading by example, and I want to do it. I think it's important to talk about the values that I grew up with, because it says who I am, and bringing those values is what I will bring to City Hall and what will guide me in making decisions. If I'm fortunate to be elected to the City Council, things like family, things like hard work, things like openness, transparency, integrity. Those are things that I grew up with and were guiding values that my mom instilled in us girls growing up.
I see. And yeah, I understand what you're stating. Obviously, what we're getting at here is I watched the Republican and a little bit, no, not much, the Republican and Democratic forums lately here when they both nominated their Romney and Obama, and I personally was a little bit disappointed that I heard a lot of self-aggrandizement about my grandfathers or my experiences, but I didn't hear much statistics from them. In other words, well, Romney or Obama, you're saying that, Mrs. Romney, for example, gave the speech. Well, when we were young, we struggled, and then this and that, and this is the man for the job. But I really expected some kind of hard facts from them. Well, what's your platform, Mr. Romney, for attempting to get the? You say you obviously you're for small government. As an attorney, what I wanted to hear was, okay, you're for small government. Are you going to cut the CIA out by 10? Are you going to reduce their budget by 10%? All of the alphabet organizations, CIA, FBI, IRS, INS, because in my viewpoint, that's how we got there. We got there because a lot of times people, not saying you, but we're just speaking generally.
Sure.
They don't have a real concise platform. And that's what I wanted from President Obama too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to get down on them. Well, okay, how are you going to bring the manufacturing jobs back, President Obama? Are you going to give tax breaks, etc.? And that's why sometimes when we have on people, I try to get, try to be more specific about particular ideas.
Sure. And you talked about, here's one thing you mentioned earlier about small businesses being kind of the backbone of a lot of people's economy. I think the city's been really instrumental in being a source of help to small business through some funding that the city has oversight through, and those fundings can get allocated to small businesses to help grow small business, and not just small business but large business. But we were talking about small business when you just mentioned about certain platforms and bringing jobs. How are they going to do that? So I think that there are mechanisms that the city has that they are working to show that when people are interested, whether it's small business, large business, there's mechanisms that the city has to support those types of businesses to come here.
We hear you're a member of these various diabetes associations, American Diabetes Association Walk Fundraiser, supposedly, and Bishop Carmody had been on the show, and he was, obviously very concerned about the high level of whatever diabetes rate we have here. When you were on these associations, etc., did anybody ever intelligently discuss why we have such a high rate of diabetes in the area? Is it a function of demographic groups or ethnic groups or laziness, bad diet? What is it? Has it ever,
It's probably a mixture of a lot of different things. I mean, I think it could be lifestyle. I think it could be hereditary. I think it could be, physical activity, diet. I think it's a lot of things. But one of my goals by serving on those American Diabetes Association and Coastal Bend Diabetes Initiative was about helping to bring greater awareness, education, outreach, and programs that were prevention type programs, building people's awareness and not just taking them from, okay, here's diabetes, but actually helping to support, and either through funding or through new creative programs where people can move from just not knowing about diabetes, but actually trying to do something different about it in their own lifestyle. Because I think it is a personal choice. I think it's a personal thing that people have to take very seriously and have to take personal responsibility for their health care. And there's lots of programs out there for people to avail themselves out. A lot of free programs. In fact, I know a lot of people would say, well, it costs money for this, it costs money for that. That's true. But there's a lot of organizations that are out there, like the Coastal Bend Diabetes Initiative. It's a grant funding organization. It gives grants to the Salvation Army, for example, Mark, where sometimes people who have diabetes have to have special
Special
shoes.
Sure.
This organization, Coastal Bend Diabetes Initiative, that I serve on the board of, we give money to the Salvation Army so that people can go and get those shoes for free. So there's lots of programs out there, and that's been really my focus. Not about how you got here so much, but in recognizing whether it's lifestyle, diet, things happen in life, but let's take you where you are and let's move you from this point to this more healthy point and help you along the way.
Do you ever get, to me, I don't know, I don't have that much experience in what in a lot of these groups, etc. But sometimes, it could be discouraging because it's hard to make even a little bit of difference. Isn't it sometimes?
Sometimes, but I think I'm always encouraged by, the one person, the two person, the three person stories. I'm always encouraged by those. And those are the things that I think when you see those successes, those lives are transformed. That person's life, that one person's life is transformed. And if they go back and serve as an example for others, then I think you're doing what you're supposed to do.
I see that you were a member of this Leadership Corpus. You're a Leadership Corpus Christi graduate. Is that right?
That's right. Class 28. So I think they're on class 41 maybe now, Mark? 41, 42. I'm not sure which class they're on, but I was in class 28, and it was a great experience for me.
What is it? What is that? I've heard of Leadership Corpus Christi, and I know a lot of influential people graduated, right? From
Leadership Corpus Christi really is, it's a program of the Chamber of Commerce, the Corpus Christi Chamber of Commerce. And the best way I can say is it really is an opportunity for new, emerging, or existing leaders to get into the program and learn about the community. They take you through a 9-month cycle where each month you study some facet of our community, whether it's the economy, whether it's quality of life, whether it's education, whether it's arts and culture, whether it's government, whether it's civic duties. And so it gives you a chance to study those issues in depth, meet people who may be in the business of that, and they each have a project that they work on every year. And so I think for me, it was just a remarkable opportunity to, at the time I worked at the port, and the port obviously is involved in many facets of our community. And so I was real privileged to already have that type of position where you are exposed,
right.
You're exposed to a lot of things already. But this gave me a chance to meet people I never maybe ordinarily meet and talk about different subjects that I maybe not have thought of before. And so I think that's really, to me, that's the benefit of those types of programs. And they are also leadership development type programs through different, Stephen Covey or some of the other, Maxwell type programs that they try to build those leadership skills. The greatest takeaway for me was learning about being a community trustee. And being a community trustee is about always remembering why you're doing what you're doing. It's to serve the community, doing it for somebody else's, for the community's greater good.
Yeah. What I'd often wondered about those sort of groups is that, you're a psychology major, right?
Right.
And sometimes I'm afraid, and it happens to all of us, you get integrated into the unconsciousness or whatever consciousness of the view of those groups. Mm-hmm. And then you get locked into this way of dealing with the problems. And then somebody said on the earlier show I filmed today, thinking outside the box. So all this, you're integrated in the status quo, into that consciousness, and doing things a certain way, and you talk to the people that are leaders, and et cetera. And then sometimes I wonder, well, gee, if you stay outside the system maybe a little bit, you may not have the power, but at least you may be able to, your viewpoint is not so tarnished. Have you ever considered what I'm saying?
I guess I don't.
I guess the way I earn my living as a criminal defense attorney and business on my own and all that, maybe I kind of think that, we, and as small independent businessmen, we think of ourselves kind of autonomously, and we look at, what I'm saying, we look at it as an establishment versus anti-establishment issue.
Well, I think it's important that, if you think there is this other group that perceives as a status quo, that they reach out to you and make sure that your viewpoints are considered and represented. And I think that that's a big part of what I've done my entire career is listen to people, learn from people, dialogue, reach out to people to really try to understand where people are coming from, to take that into consideration. Even in my job, there are things that I have to, people I have to talk to that may not agree with me or agree with something going on, but it's very important to me to sit down and say, okay, tell me your viewpoint. I want to hear it, I want to learn it, I want to understand it so that we can come together and reach a solution. And that my campaign theme for my city council race is new path to progress. And really, I believe, Mark, that I am that new path. I think I bring new blood, new energy, a new enthusiasm, a new openness to different ideas, a new fresh perspective, a new way of communicating at City Hall. I think that there's a great opportunity to improve the communications with our citizens.
How many people are running for? I shouldn't have interrupted you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. For the City Council at large, there are 6 people running, and you have 3 spots, 3 positions.
So it's a 50-50 shot.
That's one way to look at it, that are on the council. And so I want to serve as the next, I want one of those spots, and I want to serve the community as your next at-large city council representative. I've been going around and asking for people's support, and I ask for your viewers, vote and support in November. The city council race is going to be on the November ballot, the first time in history, basically, and so it'll be a unique opportunity because generally more people turn out in the November election, and so I hope that's the case this November. There's a lot of issues that are impacting people, from federal issues to state issues, judicial issues, county issues, city council. School board's going to even be on this one. We've talked a lot about the school system here today. The school board, they're going to have their race on the ballot. So it's really important that your viewers get out there and vote. And I ask that they consider Lillian Riojas for one of those votes. I'm number 2 on the ballot for the
How do they pick that? How do they pick who's going to be on the ballot? Is there a lottery? Do you know? How do they do that?
Well, basically you file, but we did. The people in at-large, we basically drew for our ballot space, and I drew number 2. So I'm second on the ballot of the at-large in city council. So. And
have you ever addressed city council?
Yes.
In your position, have you?
In my position, I have addressed city council, not just as as a representative of industry, but also on the numerous boards and community organizations that I've been a part of. I have addressed city council, and I work closely with a lot of the community groups already. The county, the Port Commission, and the city council, and the state reps, and some of our federal reps as well. And so, got a lot of those strong relationships. Our state representatives, a lot of those relationships are in place. And this is just another way that hopefully, with me being on the council, we can strengthen those ties.
When you've addressed city council, have you been pleased with the way they've listened to you and responded, or have you been displeased? Do you think that sometimes their minds made up? Do you have any? What would be?
Well, I think a lot of it's issue driven, Mark. It just depends on what the issue is. It really does, and I think that there's a new format that Ron Olson. There's lots of new leadership at City Hall. I was with the new police chief this morning, Floyd Simpson, and I saw the new fire chief this morning. He was also there at the Keys program. So you had the police chief, the new fire chief was there, and then there's new city manager in Ron Olson, who is running the city council, or the meetings are run a little bit different, where it gives people a chance to see what some of the future agenda items are going to be, that then they can hear information about it. People can come and have public discussion before votes are taken, which I think has actually helped improve people's understanding. But I think that there's still some opportunity there at City Hall to increase that communication and make sure that the communication and the ways we share information. I work for a refinery. I have to take complex information, Mark, on a daily basis and drill it down into nuggets that people can easily understand. I think that can be done the same for City Hall. That information should be accessible to all the citizens who avail themselves of it. If you want to know more about it, it shouldn't be difficult to find out about what people are concerned about it.
So it is difficult for them to find out now?
I don't know so much difficult, but I think that there's different steps you have to take. I don't know if you've gone on the city's website. and so navigated through the websites. There's opportunities to improve the way. I'm always about communications can always be better, and I think that's what I'm saying here. Communication with City Hall, City Council, and our citizens can always be better. And so with my skill set and what I do for a living, I think it's a natural.
When you ran for, when you first, decided you were going to run and you put your name in and all, did you get a packet from the city regarding issues, etc., briefing you of various issues that the city has before them now? Did you get an information packet of some sort?
No, I didn't get a packet, but
okay.
Part of who I am is I'm the type of person that listens, learns, make sure I have an understanding, not just from city staff, city council, but then just talking to people. I was fortunate to be endorsed the other night by the Police Officers Association. But before I went and visited with police officers, I sat down to listen and to learn from police officers about what the issues that were important to them. Mm-hmm. And so I received their endorsement on Thursday, which I'm really thankful and appreciative to our friends in blue for endorsing me for their city council at large representative. But that just shows you a demonstration of what I do. It wasn't so much they give you a packet and say, here's the issues. I went out and talked to people on all sides of the fence.
What are the issues that the important to police officers? Did they tell
I
you?
think benefits obviously are really important. Manpower, equipment, those are some key issues. I think they're key issues for our community. You said it. You think it is a safe place to live. I would agree with you. I've built a life here. I've stayed here, and actually, it's been a pretty safe life here for the last nearly 2 decades. I think I have a lot to. We have a lot to say thank you to our friends in blue for making that happen and putting their lives daily on the line to protect us.
I thought it was more a function of a kind of like the same reason perhaps we have diabetes problems. It's a certain whatever ethnic and or socioeconomic function of the area and the history of the area has led to its safety more than I can't. That's just a vague general opinion. Mm-hmm. Instead of attributing it necessarily to the police force, for example. But of course, that would be my opinion. In other words, I guess, I think sometimes, if you obviously the area has that history. Whatever area you go to, a certain ethnic group came at a certain time, certain jobs, whether it's steel mill or a refinery, mm-hmm. et cetera, and certain community cohesion. So I think that is one of the benefits. And maybe that's not sold. I don't know. Maybe it's sold that maybe the gang problem is, you hear about the gang problem.
Right.
Maybe there's too much emphasis on that, I don't know, in the media, et cetera, and not enough on the safety. But I wanted to thank you for coming on. This is your first foray into politics, right?
Yes, I've never run for political office before.
And tell us anything important that you learned since you've been running for political office that you think is good or bad in the system?
I have met so many remarkable people through this process. So no matter what unfolds in November, on November 6th for my race, it has been a truly remarkable experience. And I think there's so many people here that love this community and just really want this to be a better place. And so that's what I want to bring. My campaign is New Path to Progress, and I think I do bring that, Mark, the new energy, new enthusiasm. And so I just would ask your viewers for their support and ask for their vote on November 6th for Lillian Riojas, City Council at Large.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. Thank you.